Mr. Speaker, I rise today in opposition to H.R. 7606 because, simply put, this bill does nothing in the immediate to lower food and fuel costs. Long before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, America's farm families and consumers were struggling with fractured supply chains, skyrocketing input costs, and historic levels of inflation, each of which continue to contribute to increased food prices and diminished inventories. Despite these crises, Democrats have neglected to take serious action to incentivize increased American production. In fact, we're here today to debate a bill that compounds the situation, further limiting American farmers' abilities to meet global food demand, and doubling down on the idea that more spending and big government will feed the world. Adding insult to injury, the White House has been quick to blame the private sector and alleged industry concentration for the current crisis. Economists across the spectrum, including former Obama and Clinton administration officials, have dismissed the strategy as misleading at best and otherwise blatantly political. So it is not surprising that, at the behest of the White House, we are debating a package where the anchor piece of legislation perpetuates a tired narrative of blame, duplicative existing authorities, ignores industry and producers, and undermines the Department of Justice. It is also not surprising the party of defund the police also has become the party of more cops for cows. At every turn, this administration has obsessively pointed the finger at the packing industry, in particular blaming them almost single-handedly for rising food costs. They've done so via blog posts, contrived public events, and press briefings, all without any acknowledgement of the culpability of their own reckless spending and heavy-handed regulatory agenda. My Democrat colleagues have dutifully played along, executing sensationalized hearings and political theatrics designed to support unvetted and controversial bills. Mr. Speaker, it's no wonder many of us question the seriousness of the bill before us today. If this were a serious exercise, my Democrat colleagues would not have paired such an egregious example of legislative overreach with several other very thoughtful, very bipartisan bills. If this were a serious exercise, my Democrat colleagues would not have added two unvetted Democratic amendments that are more about political point scoring than genuine near-term policy solutions. If this were a serious exercise, my Democratic colleagues would have worked with Republicans to form a concrete, immediate policy solutions with a chance of consideration in the Senate. Now, I know both parties understand the gravity of these issues, and while we may have disagreements on policy, I was confident that we could find common ground solutions if given the opportunity. And I'm dumbfounded as to why Democratic leadership would choose this moment when consumers are deciding between gas in their cars or food on their tables as an attempt to score political points, especially on the heels of a nearly 9% increase in consumer prices, the worst this nation has seen since the Carter administration. So Republicans forged ahead and we developed solutions. Earlier this week, Leader McCarthy and I, along with nearly 100 of our Republican colleagues, we sent a letter to President Biden outlining administrative actions that he could take immediately to mitigate rising input costs and strengthen the role of that American agriculture plays in global food stability. And yesterday, I, along with many of those same members, introduced H.R. 8069, the Reducing Farm Input Costs and Barriers to Domestic Production Act. This bill would reverse many of the more harmful regulatory burdens spearheaded by this administration, address escalating input costs, and provide certainty to farmers, ranchers, agribusinesses, and other entities across the food and agriculture supply chain. Specifically, the bill provides relief from EPA's unprecedented actions related to pesticides and other vital crop protection tools, offers clarity related to WOTUS regulations, rescinds the SEC's harmful proposed rule on climate-related disclosures, reinstates the 2020 NEPA streamlining, and requires an economic analysis on the costs and the benefits of GIPSA rules. All actions which would provide immediate relief to our farm families and households across the globe. And all were rejected by the Rules Committee majority as amendments to the bill before us. The letter and this bill stand in stark contrast to what we've seen from the White House and the Democrats in Congress. and their efforts to scapegoat private industry for skyrocketing gas prices and sustained supply chain failures. So in short, the crisis we're facing cannot and will not be mitigated with unfunded mandates, duplicative authorities, politicized agencies, and big government, all of which are laced into H.R. 7606. I remain opposed to this bill and the process which got us here, but stand willing to work with my colleagues on common sense, near-term solutions to provide immediate relief to farmers, ranchers, foresters, and American families, the consumers. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.